Chairman, first I note that I'm offering this amendment in cooperation with Mr. Raskin. Twice in a matter of 2 days we agree. Imagine that. This amendment requires the Director to establish a tracking system of federally funded initiatives and grant programs, establish performance metrics and goals for grant programs, develop a common application form for drug control-related grant programs, and maintain a comprehensive list of all drug control program grant award opportunities. Imagine that. We actually have to tell them to establish this system. The President's Opioid Commission offered more than 50 recommendations to combat the opioid crisis. The top 3 recommendations address reducing administrative burdens for federal grant recipients, tracking all federally funded initiatives, and review of federally funded programs as required. This amendment incorporates those recommendations by establishing such a system to reduce administrative burdens and have a central database for these programs. I urge the pass support for this amendment and will yield time to Mr. Raskin to join me in support.
I want to thank the distinguished gentleman for introducing this, and I'm glad we had the same idea about doing this, and I appreciate your leadership here. When we went to Baltimore, Mr. Chairman, for the hearing with Governor Christie to hear about the Christie recommendations, one of them was that we develop a tracking system so we can actually determine which programs we're putting money into to combat the opioid epidemic are working. And that seems eminently sensible, and it's certainly consistent with everything that I think members on both sides of the aisle have been saying about evidence-based policymaking. We want our policies to follow where the findings and the empirical research show us things are working. And so this builds it right into the legislation, and I want to thank Mr. Mitchell for his leadership on it and for including me in this amendment. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unless folks have questions, I will yield back for sake of brevity and ask support for the amendment.
The gentleman from Michigan yields back. The Chair would like to thank Mr. Mitchell and Professor Raskin for their collaboration on this amendment. Does any other member seek to be recognized? If not, the question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Michigan. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. Opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is